So the game's finished. Aston Villa 1, West Ham 1. I've got to say, a really well-deserved point from West Ham today. A really exciting game. Very, very pleased with that result. If you'd have told me it was going to be a 1-1 draw, or even just a draw at all before the game had started, I'd definitely have taken that result. I felt like this was going to be one of those games where we were going to pretty much have a repeat of the FA Cup. Just because we've got no, it's no secret we've got no attacking power, so it's not really something I particularly considered that we would win or get anything from at all. Especially when you look at our upcoming fixtures as well. I really felt as though, this was going to be the first of a few losses really, and it probably would knock our confidence. But completely wrong. Really happy to be wrong. In fact, on this particular one. Look, even at 1-0 down, I felt like, if we lost this, I felt that actually we've put on a really good account of ourselves, especially with all the injuries that we have, But Villa, it's got to be said though, I think that they were cutting us open for that first 10 minutes or so. We really had no answer to them. They came on really strong, very high energy straight out of the gate. We had no answer for them. I do think we sort of retreated back to the sort of Lopetegui way, in the sense of that I felt like, Wan-Bissaka again kind of got caught overcommitting a little bit, and Sofal could have been a bit stronger there. I really think he could have done a little bit better, but we looked like we had pretty much no midfield. They just went straight through us, straight to our defence immediately, and we weren't organised enough to be able to deal with what, to be fair, was decent play by Villa. But it was happening over and over again. They were pretty much just lining up to take shots at us, and at some point it was going to go in. It was the inevitable, and it did. So I can't moan about it too much, because, as I say, it was sort of the first 10-15 minutes or so, and then I felt like we picked up a little bit. I felt like Potter hopefully closed those gaps a little bit. I'd like to think it was a tactical change that maybe helped us shore that up a little bit, rather than just leaving it to the players on the field there. I think that initially I felt like Villa might just sit back a little bit from a little bit of fatigue from the Champions League. I felt like they could sit back and just try and see the game out, and I felt like the game would probably go out in a bit of a whimper, to be honest, more than anything else. And that's what I was probably more afraid of, that they'd just kill the momentum of the game immediately, just like what happened to us at the beginning of the season, where we couldn't go 5 or 6 minutes without conceding the first goal. And I felt like this was a repeat of that. If you remember, the first time we played Villa, I think it was the first game of the season, it was Onana from a corner immediately straight in the back of the net, and all your momentum's gone and all your confidence is gone. So I'm glad that sort of didn't happen. It didn't knock our confidence too much, but I do feel like Villa did settle back a little bit too much, and kind of let us back into the game a little bit. But there are two teams playing the game, and look, you have to capitalise on another team's mistakes. They did with us. And look, at the end of the day, when they sit back, we have to fill that space. We can't just sit there and accept a loss. We're not going to get anything from that. We need, especially with our goal difference, we need to start pushing forward, and starting trying to get at least a point from the game, right? We're not trying to protect a goal difference at this point. But yeah, like I said, I was totally wrong with the way I felt like the game was going to go. Whilst I think it could be said that Villa definitely took the first half, obviously with a lot more emphasis on the first 10-15 minutes, but I still think they were the better team in the first half, and we did look like we were starting to make some waves. Our persistence, started to get some rewards, and I think we took that momentum and that confidence into the dressing room after the first half and into the second half with us. Let's talk about the goal. Actually, I mean, Wan-Bissaka, lays it off to Alvarez and then starts making a run, and you think Alvarez is going to knock it through and probably just, hit a defender's foot or something, just like pretty much everything that was happening, and then we would get caught out and they'd do us on the on the break. But actually, that didn't happen at all. And Alvarez ended up actually playing a peach of a cross through. And again, just being pessimistic, I just kind of felt like, you could see immediately that the weighting on that cross was perfect. But I just felt like there would be nobody there. It was just going to go through. I just thought, well, who's going to be picking that up? No one. Who's going to be thinking that, in that way at West Ham? And I think that would have been true of a Lopetegui team or even the Moyes team in some way. But do you know what? Emerson was there. And it was a great header as well. Put it straight back across the keeper, which is what you need to do. Again, as I say, persistence is rewarded. So, I've got to say hats off, metaphorically speaking, to Emerson there. Paqueta had a great game. I think he's had a real solid couple of games now. 2-3 games. I really missed him when he started, missed him when he's playing like this. With a bit more creativity, feels a bit more unshackled. But, there was a couple of times where I would say, I was concerned about him in the past where, he'd be doing Rabonas or back heels and stuff in our final third, right? And it would give me a bit of a heart attack, but it seems like he's just found a bit more creativity within some of the boundaries that he kind of needs to set for himself. Still a bit of a play actor, probably needs to work on that a little bit. Maybe that's part of his Brazilian charm. I don't know. But yeah, I think that, we've really seen a resurgence in his form. Hopefully, some of this this gambling stuff is, going behind him. We've got him now until the rest of the season. That got announced, so I do feel really happy for him, if he's innocent, of course. I do think, just, for the record, I think, look, if he is guilty, you throw the book at him, right? But, if he's not, then, this must be a big weight off his shoulders. Hopefully he can be a bit more creative for the rest of the season. And I'd like to think that the managerial change has got something to do with that. There was a part of me that sort of questions that a little bit. I think if you remember, it wasn't so long ago now, probably 4 or 5 games ago, I think it was that Paqueta scored. I can't remember the game now. And he ran straight over to Lopetegui, gave him a big hug, and showed very much a togetherness, a cohesion there between the manager and the team, which we definitely thought was missing. So who knows if it's the manager change or not, but I'd like to think that it's got something to do with that, just because I'd like to think we've made the right appointment with Potter. Jury's still out. I don't know for certain. He wasn't my first choice, but my first choice was Amorim. So there's always that. I mean, jury's out on that one too from a Manchester United perspective. So. Yeah, with the as I record this, with that after this draw, we are currently ahead of Man United in the league and ahead of Spurs still. So that's very much very pleasing to the eye. Ollie Scholes. I think he had an incredible game when he came on. Really enjoying seeing him on the pitch. I really do feel like we've got something there. It was nice to hear the crowd singing his name as well, one of our own. We really like to get behind them as a club, and I really feel like he could have a real bright future for us. So I really hope that he gets nurtured in the way that he needs to, because from what I saw, there was a couple of things maybe I don't know, because obviously I'm not a Premier League defender, but there was a couple of things maybe that I think that he did maybe were taking a bit of a risk. But they certainly paid off. Like, he got stuck in, made the challenge at the right time, where Villa weren't expecting it, and managed to get us turning the tide and back up the other end of the field. So, very important. I felt like he was for us in the second half. I guess it's Danny Ings. Let's think, Danny Ings. So when Danny Ings came on, obviously I was a little bit concerned. I can see why, obviously having, we've got a lot of high impact injuries, especially up in the attacking area. So I thought they were going to bring on Danny Ings and take off Kudus. So that was a concern for me. I'm glad that didn't happen. But actually, look, I feel like he's been having his best games in a West Ham shirt under Potter. So hopefully, if we're not gonna get rid of him in the January transfer window, and he's gonna see out the rest of his contract with us for the rest of the season, well then, great. Look, we need more players who are going to be performing for us. And as I say, I really think he's getting himself stuck in. He's making himself a bit of a nuisance. He could have had one. I think it was him. We had a nice little strike, just whistled past the far post, really, really close. I think that was Danny Ings. So yeah, look, incredible. If he can keep this up, he's really going to be able to add something to the squad for the remainder of the season, and that can only be a good thing. So Alvarez, again, as we said, great cross, perfectly weighted ball. I think generally speaking, he had quite a good game. There's always that concern that Alvarez is going to get himself sent off. He made that, I don't know. He made a decision, let's say, like a goalkeeper would, to smother the ball rather than suffer the mistake. Look, he didn't get sent off in the end, so I can't say it's the wrong one. Sometimes you have to take a tactical foul or something like that. And I think, whilst I didn't support the decision at the time because I felt like he might get sent off, ended up being the right one. But look, I think he stayed on the field with a heavy, heavy dose of luck, especially just before he got hooked off. I think that was a red. Not in isolation, but if someone was already on a yellow, if that was Villa, I'd have been called in for the red there. So I can see why they'd feel hard done by on that one. But it was right to take him off. Speaking of substitutions, though, worrying injury situation at the end with Paqueta. Anyone who's played before, you pull the groin, that's a bad time. I am surprised he didn't get taken off. You could have made that a lot worse by staying on a bit longer and going for it. So I'm really concerned about that one. I feel like, taking off Kudus instead of taking off Paqueta for Guido, that was concerning for me. And I hope that's just a slight pull and he's all right. But, as I say, if he's starting to pick up form and then an injury like that, just like Fulkrug, I felt like he was starting to pick up. He was nice, neat and tidy. He really looked like he could add something to us. Next thing you know, injured again. So, crossing fingers and everything else for you, mate. I hope that's not as bad as that looked. But look, all in all, I've got to say I'm far happier with Graham Potter in as the head coach. I think he's performing. We're now starting to perform as I felt like we would do in the transitional season this year, where a bit more of a youth presence. Not necessarily the finished article as a team, but something you can see, like, you can see a new system and you can see that the way it's supposed to work and the way that they want to work. As I say, not necessarily the finished article. We know that's not going to happen in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day, all that kind of bollocks. But look, we can start to see. We can start to see what we're trying to do. And we're already starting to see some results here. As I say, I really didn't feel like we'd get anything out of this game. And getting a point out of this game was incredible as far as I was concerned. I'm chuffed to bits. Look, I think it's got to be said. Let's wrap this one up. I think, look, we're not going to be challenging for Europe anytime soon. Certainly not this season. But I think if we can get ourselves into the top half, I really think this could be a salvageable season.